All right, so for this function, it says 2 art museums are hosting new long-term exhibits. The number of daily visitors attending each exhibit is modeled by functions v and s, where n is the number of days since the exhibits opened. And then they have the function, the visual arts exhibit. Can't talk today. V of n is equal to x 800 over x plus 120. And then the sculptural exhibit, they have the data there. So they don't give us the equation, but they give us the data that is a result of some equation. And then it asks us which statement accurately describes this situation. So I'm going to reread this again because I know I'm going to compare some things. But I'm just going to reread it again. It says 2 art museums are hosting new long-term exhibits. The number of daily visitors attending each model is modeled by the functions v and s, where n is the number of days since the exhibit opened. So I think this is a typo right here. I think this should be an n. That's okay. And then it says which exhibit or which statement describes this situation. So it says, as the number of days increase, the number of daily visitors at both exhibits decrease to 0. That's not true. Okay. So the reason it's not true, so if I look at this, yeah, as it increased, this number goes down, this number goes down, this number goes down, this number. I mean, in theory, it could keep going down to 0, right? So we're looking at the y values or the s sub n or v sub n. So, but it says for both exhibits. So, yeah, the sculpture exhibit might reach 0. However, the visual arts never will. If I consider a really big X, let's say V sub 10,000. I said sub, but I meant V of 10,000. Then that would equal 800 divided by 10,000 plus 120. Now, as the number of days goes on, this almost approaches 0. If I plug this in a calculator, it's going to be like point dot 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 4 or something like that, or 0.0004. So as this number right here increases, this gets closer to 0, right? But they're always going to have 120. So that one is not true. By the way, what I use to solve that is n behavior. I thought of a really big number. What happens when I plug in a really big number? So that's an n behavior technique. It says, as the number of days increases, the number of daily visitors at the visual arts exhibit levels off to the same amount as the number of. That's not true because I bet you this one. That's not true because I bet you this one does go below 120. The lowest this will go is 120. Okay. So if I can make this go away or get pretty darn close to 0, I'm still going to have 120 here. I bet you this one keeps going down and down. So that one's not true. As the number of days increases, the number of daily visitors for the visual arts levels off to a higher amount than the number of daily visitors at the sculpture. That's kind of true to some degree, but it takes a while. So this is, you have to make an assumption like right here, this is at 210, right? So after 10 days, this is at 210. After 10 days here, this is at 128, right? Well, as this one gets smaller, this one never really increases. It only approaches 120 and then it gets there. So it doesn't, because of the way the question's worded. Well, how many days? 100 days is a long time. 200 days is almost a full year. That's 2/3 of, there are 365 days in a year. So I wouldn't necessarily say that C is true. It's eventually true, but at what value, right? So it says as it increases. Well, it increases from, it increases from 10 to 50, and S of n is still higher. Now D, it says as the number of days increases, the number of daily visitors at the visual arts levels off to a lower amount than the number of daily visitors at the sculpture. Based on the data that they show us, yes, right? This will become lower, okay? It's a long-term exhibit. The question that we have to ask ourselves is how many days is that exhibit in question? But based on the data that they've given us, we can say that it's true, okay?